Hi guys. So today is a combination of what is one of the easiest days of the year and what is one of the hardest days of the year. So that's why we've kind of split this video into two parts. The first part is what I like to call the easy part, and the second part is going to be the hard part. Both of these involve ways of solving systems. The first one, though, is an easy way because it teaches us how to use the calculator in order to be able to solve these systems simply. So what we're going to do is we're going to find something called an augmented matrix for a system. Now, a matrix is really a set of rows and columns, and numbers that are in rows and columns. So something like this would be an example of a matrix. The way that we give the dimensions of a matrix is we give the rows by the columns. And when we enter matrices in our calculator, we'll need to know that. So rows by column. So this example up here would be what we call a 2x3 matrix. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to find a matrix that represents this system. So the way we're going to set this up is the first column is going to be all the coefficients of the x. The second column is going to be all the coefficients of the y. The third column is going to be all the coefficients of the z. And the last column is going to be the number that's on the other side of the equal sign. And all we're going to do is fill in those numbers. So I would have my x coefficients are 1, -1, and 2. My y coefficients are -2, 3, and -5. My z coefficients are 3, 0, because there isn't one, and 5. And then the number on the other side is 9, -4, and 17. So that is the augmented matrix that represents that system. If we wanted to list the dimensions, that would be a 3x4 matrix, 3 rows by 4 columns. Now, what's important for this is that we make sure that this matrix is in what's called standard form. So basically, we want this system to be in that form where we have the x's over here, then the y's, then the z's, and then the number by itself. So let's go ahead and try the next one. So this would be 1, -6, 0, 5. So even if there are no z's, we still have to fill in that 0 placeholder. Next one, there were 0 x's, 3 y's, 2 z's, and 4. 2, -5, -1, and 0. And again, this is another 3x4 matrix. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at how to actually use that information, use that augmented matrix to solve using the calculator. So we're going to start by finding that augmented matrix first. So this first one, we'll go ahead and write our matrix. So this is 1, -3, 0, 4. 1, 0, 1, 12, 1, -1, -1, 1. All right, so again, make sure you fill in those zeros for anything that gets skipped. So what we're going to use on the calculator is something called reduced row echelon form. Now that is something on the calculator that involves matrix operations. That's the hard part we're going to look at later. But for now, all we're going to do is we're going to use the calculator to find this. You'll see it abbreviated as RREF. That stands for reduced row echelon form. And what that does is it makes it very easy for us to solve our system. So go ahead and grab your calculators. And what we're going to do to enter this matrix in reduced row echelon form, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to option. And then after option, and if you couldn't see where that was, there's our option button. All right, so after option, you're going to select F2 for MAT. MAT is our matrix operations. All right, now we don't see what we're looking for yet, so I'm going to go ahead and click F6 so that I can get more options. And then you're going to see your option for RREF. Remember, we want RREF because we want reduced row echelon form. REF is reduced echelon form. That is something, but we don't want to do that right here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our main menu. So we want our main screen here to show those normal options it does when we start our calculator. So we're going to press exit twice to get back to that main menu option. So exit, exit. So now we're going to enter our matrix. Now there's two ways you can do this. What you can do is you could go to this MAT and enter it that way. Honestly, though, I think that's a little bit harder, and that's really a better option if you're doing a lot of operations with the same matrix. What I think is easier is instead to do F4 for math. So now you're going to see MAT again. So we'll do F1 for MAT, and now you'll notice it's a different menu. So this allows us to actually enter our matrix. Now, the matrix that we're going to enter was a 3x4 matrix. So we don't see that as an option already. So I'm going to use M by N, and I'm going to enter 3 by 4. So a 3 by 4 matrix. And now I'm going to enter that augmented matrix. So this was 1, -3, 0. Sorry guys, it's hard to type on this little thing, especially on a iPad. Now remember guys, if you don't have a calculator, you do have that emulator on your iPad, which is going to look a lot like what I'm using right here actually. And you may be a little faster than I am because I'm trying to type this on a screen that's not intended for this. So we got 1, -1, -1, 1, 0, and 1. Man, I'm slow. Sorry, guys. All right. Once your augmented matrix is typed in and you have ref in front of it, all you have to do is press enter, and this is going to give us our solution. So the way we use this, I'm going to go ahead and write the answer. So I've got 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 7, 1, 5. Well, just like we talked about when we wrote an augmented matrix, the first column were the x's, the second column were the y's, the third column were the z's, and the last column was the equals number. Well, looking at the system now that we have, I've got 1x equals 7. I've got 1y equals 1, and 1z equals 5. And that's the solution to my system. So once you get to this point, it's actually really simple. The hardest part really is just remembering where to find those buttons. So another thing you could always do on the calculator, if you ever forget where something's listed, it's kind of a long way to get there, but if you do Shift and where it says catalog, that'll give you a listing of all of the different operations that you have on your calculator. All right, so if you feel comfortable, try this next one on your own. I'll go ahead and at least help you guys get that augmented matrix written down. So this one is not already in that standard form. So before we type this in our calculator, we need to rearrange it so that we have x, y, z equals number. Okay, we have to have all of our equations in that form, so make sure our negatives don't get messed up. The first equation's good. The second equation I'm going to rewrite as 3y plus 2z equals 4. And the last equation I'm going to rewrite as 2x minus 5y minus z equals 0. All right, so the augmented matrix here is going to be 1, -6, 0, 5, 0, 3, 2, 4, and then 2, -5, -1, 0. So go ahead and get ref, type that in your calculator, and find your answer. All right, so after you get this typed in, you're going to notice this answer is actually pretty ugly, which is why a calculator can be really helpful for some of these matrices in order to get some of these solutions, especially when they don't look too pretty like this. So I have that x is a -11/17, y is a -16/17, and z is 58/17. All right, so that is really it for the easy part. So again, like I said, we're splitting this into 2 parts. So this is really, honestly, the more important part because this is a really helpful tool to help you guys solve systems. So just know how to write that augmented matrix and then how to find those values in your calculator, and you can have a really easy tool to be able to help you guys solve systems in the future. Now keep in mind, even though this is a helpful tool for you guys for solving these systems, whenever you have your tests and quizzes, you are still going to need to know elimination and substitution as methods, and you will need to show your work to be able to solve that way. But this gives you a good backup to be able to check your answers, and also a faster way to solve some of your word problems or some answers that may not give you some nice pretty values.